This was a big week for AEW, with Tony Khan promising a top wrestler debuting on Dynamite and an AEW World title match between Hangman Adam Page and Lance Archer. Tony's strategy to generate a lot of buzz coming into the show worked, at least for 1 week. They bounced back big after last week's rating was down for the show with CM Punk against MJF. 2 weeks ago, they were at 1.1 million viewers on TBS. Last week, they were down to 954,000. This week, they were back up to over 1.1 million. Their best ever viewership on TBS and their best overall viewership since September 29th. But he will not be able to push a new debut every week. The question is, with all this talent that they do have, if they can keep that number above 1 million. The key, as with everything, is in the follow-up. I mean, you look at that roster and all the names they have, all the talent they have. There's really no reason that they shouldn't be able to do that. Keith Lee made his AEW debut against Isaiah Cassidy of Private Party. He was the mystery man who is slotted in there. This was a qualifying match for the Face of the Revolution ladder match coming up on pay-per-view next month. And look, before I even talk about Keith Lee here, got to give props to Isaiah Cassidy for being the real star of that match. You know, Keith Lee came down, he posed, he threw him around a little bit, he won the match. You know, obviously he's the big name here of the two, but Cassidy was, I mean, really both members of Private Party. I can't even say it was just Isaiah. It was Isaiah, it was Marquand, bumping around like madmen for Keith Lee, making him look like $1 million out there. So kudos to Private Party, who I don't think got enough credit. Everybody was talking about Keith Lee. They should have been talking about Isaiah Cassidy in Private Party. But Keith Lee debuted, and he qualified for the ladder match next month at Revolution. This was one of the two names I mentioned. Of all these ex-WWE names whose non-competes recently ran out and expired, I named two people who I thought for sure would end up in AEW. Because there's some names I'm just not sure of. Now, Jeff Hardy is not free yet. And Jeff Hardy is going to AEW. There's not a doubt in my mind. Jeff Hardy, next month, will be in AEW. And the Hardy Boys will be doing a reunion in AEW. There's zero doubt. But of the other names, Keith Lee was the one I mentioned on the men's side. And on the women's side, I mentioned Ember Moon, who I believe just the other night, I think went to a 30-minute draw at an independent show against Thunder Rosa as her under her former moniker of Athena. She is now free. I think it's only a matter of time before she ends up in the AEW women's division. I think she'll be a fine addition to that division. But Keith Lee is the one who I said for sure I see him ending up in AEW. Keith Lee is someone who cannot miss. He is the kind of person who, you look at him, you look at the athletic ability that he has as a bigger guy. Guy's 340 pounds. I mean, he's no small man. And he can do things in that ring that a man of his size should not be able to do. And I think that there is a way for Keith Lee to go out there and be presented as a monster, as this agile monster, and for him to go on to become one of the top talents, one of the upper echelon talents in this company. I feel the same way about Malachi Black. Now, Malachi is doing the tag team thing for now with Brody King. But even when they brought Brody King in, I said, I hope that doesn't mean the end of Malachi Black doing singles work, because he was on a pretty good path. I think he's better than just being in a tag team. But he's another one who I have high hopes for. These are guys that, a year from now, when I'm sitting here doing this show, I should be talking about them, if not as a champion, in the conversation as somebody who is either TNT champion or wrestling for the AEW World Championship, because that's where they should be. That's where they belong. Now, there was a lot of people who were commenting on Keith Lee, and he was heavier than he was the last time. I think even Meltzer in his newsletter and Keller in his, in the Torch, said that his weight is a lot higher than it was previously, even when he was in NXT. And that's true. I mean, he did look bigger than I've ever seen him before. And I don't know how much of that is just, him still trying to get back in ring shape because he went through hell with COVID. He's talked about this before. When he came back to WWE late last year, it's not like he was getting a lot of work in. He had a few TV matches, but he wasn't really working a whole hell of a lot before they fired him. And now he's been sitting around waiting for his non-compete to expire. He went and got married to Mia Yim. So I don't know how much work he's actually done, to be perfectly honest with you, since he was cleared late last year to come back. Before WWE even came up with the Bearcat stuff, they were trying to first figure out what to do with him. He was sitting at home. And so how are you supposed to get yourself back in ring shape and get your cardio up in the ring if you're not really working all that much? This is going to be a real test now for Keith Lee. All I know is that even though he was, bigger than I last saw him, he was still moving around pretty good in that ring on Wednesday night. And the fans were happy to see him. Keith Lee is somebody who should absolutely be a top name in this company in short order. And we'll see, because it's a very crowded roster right now in AEW. The opportunities, I don't want to say they're few and far between. I think everybody will have an opportunity, but, there's only so many spots to go around. We'll see if Keith Lee ends up in a spot high up on the roster where I think that he should be. I don't see him winning that ladder match, though, at Revolution. But that's the kind of match that he could go into and be part of, and he doesn't have to get pinned to lose. All you have to do is pull down the contract or the briefcase or whatever is hanging above the ring. But I'm very happy to see him land in AEW. And hopefully now his talents will be recognized and not ignored. And there's no silly nickname needed. There's no skirt. There's no, all the bullshit. Trying to figure out, what do we do with this guy? It's not that hard. With a guy like him who looks like that, it should not be complicated to figure out how to utilize someone like Keith Lee. We'll see if Tony Khan can pick up the pieces and do with him what Vince McMahon did not. I can't even say could not. He could have. We'll see if AEW can pick up the pieces and actually do something worthwhile with Keith Lee. Switchblade Jay White. He showed up for the very first time on Dynamite in a backstage segment, which I thought was kind of a lame way for him to debut. But it's a great get for them. And we come to find out that Switchblade was not even supposed to come into AEW. When Tony Khan went and tweeted the Friday before this week's show, so this was after last week's Rampage, he went online, he had promised some big announcement. And the announcement was that he would have an announcement on Wednesday. And he didn't really have an announcement on Wednesday. It was just a debut. So I think he kind of even phrased that wrong. But he admitted that in those tweets that he put out when he was talking about the Forbidden Door, and he said this person who was going to debut against Isaiah Cassidy and the Forbidden Door person are one and the same. That's what he said. He said it was one and the same, which made you think, okay, it's only one person debuting, not two. But it didn't make any sense. You hear about Forbidden Door, you think of people who work actively for other companies coming in. You think of companies working together, talent exchanges between two companies. Somebody who was fired from WWE signing with AEW has nothing to do with the Forbidden Door. What's so forbidden about it? The guy's a free agent. Well, Tony Khan realized after the fact that he fucked up. And he tweeted after Jay White debuted, he said, "I did not secure Jay White until Sunday. I realized after the fact that Friday night I butchered my own definition of Forbidden Door in hyping tonight. I heard the fans' feedback and I wanted to ensure that tonight was a special Dynamite for all." So he admits, I fucked up. He said he screwed up the meaning of the whole Forbidden Door thing. And I love this, he realizes, okay, he fucked up. And so what does he do? He goes out and he grabs one of the biggest names from New Japan, who's also been working for Impact, and he brings him in on short notice. So, good on him. He recognized that he made a mistake. He wanted to do something cool for the fans. He went out and he got Jay White. I think that's great. Now, I don't know how many appearances he's in for. I suspect it's not too many. They brought in Kenta. They brought in Minoru Suzuki when he was on tour here in the U.S. They only had them for a handful of appearances. And again, Tony Khan only grabbed him at the last second because he screwed up. So it's not like he had existing plans for Jay White. He had this whole 6-month plan mapped out for Jay White. This was a last-minute thing. But even if only for a couple of matches, I think it's great that they got him. He's facing Trent Barretta, one-on-one this Friday on Rampage. That's going to be his in-ring debut for AEW. A little programming note, Rampage is on earlier It's actually going to be on before SmackDown this Friday, not after SmackDown. So usually it's a 10 p.m. start on TNT this Friday. For those who watch Rampage, just be aware, because of the whole NBA All-Star Weekend thing, it's a 7 o'clock start. So you've got the taped Rampage leading into a taped episode of SmackDown this week. There was a promo segment on Dynamite with the Inner Circle. Chris Jericho had called for a team meeting, a mandatory team meeting of all the members of the Inner Circle. The Inner Circle is fracturing at the seams, thank God. And I want to single out Santana and Ortiz, and in particular, Santana, because he came out and cut the promo of his life on Chris Jericho. And there was a lot of truth in what was coming out of his mouth on Wednesday night. And those are some of the best promos, the ones that, and that's why people talk about the fucking pipe bomb after all these years. Yes, it was a worked promo, but it was a work shoot because there was a lot of genuine emotion in that promo from CM Punk. He was genuinely frustrated at his position in the company. He was genuinely frustrated at The Rock coming in and getting the WrestleMania main event when he felt that he should have been in the WrestleMania main event. And he should be the one on all the posters and stuff. So he took all of that and turned it into promo gold. Those are some of the best ones. I heard a lot of truth in what Santana was saying on Wednesday night when he was talking about Chris Jericho and the Inner Circle holding them back and how they should have already been competing for and winning the tag team titles and doing more than what they're doing. And all this has done is hurt their careers. I've been saying this for months, that this Inner Circle thing went on for too long and it started working against all of these guys. Sammy's doing well on his own. He doesn't even need the group anymore. I'm not even sure why he's still part of the group anymore. But I loved that promo, and now it leads to a tag team match this Wednesday. It's going to be Chris Jericho and Jake Hager taking on Santana and Ortiz. Jericho came off very heelish on Wednesday, and I'm hopeful that it will lead to a heel turn for him. You know, he was a heel, then he was a babyface, and I think it's about time to shake things up again. But when he had that, he got that line off about, you know, when Santana and Ortiz a few weeks ago refused to tag him into their match, all you did was deprive these poor people. You should be apologizing to the fans. He sounds like fucking Bully Ray now. You should be apologizing to the fans for cheating them out of seeing Chris Jericho wrestling in the ring. Oh, yeah. So anyway, I'm hopeful that this is the beginning of the end of the Inner Circle and the start of something more, you know, a tag team title run to the titles to Santana and Ortiz that they can build up now over a period of months. There was an excellent tag team match. CM Punk got Jon Moxley to be his partner against FTR. With the win, Punk now has earned a rematch against MJF when and where he wants it to be, whatever stipulation he wants it to be. I'm sure it will be at Revolution. I think we knew they were going to rematch at Revolution. It seemed pretty obvious to me, but that tag team match on Wednesday night was great. If you're a fan of tag team wrestling, make sure you go back and watch that match if you didn't tune in for it. And Hangman Page, what can I say about the main event? Hangman Page retaining his title over Lance Archer. I thought just an excellent Texas death match they had. You know, yes, it was a garbage match. That's what the Texas death match is, basically. You can pretty much use whatever you want and do whatever you want. There's almost no rules in a match like that. So you're going to get violence and blood and weapons and broken tables and all sorts of stuff. Both men bled. I thought that match was fantastic, and I love the finish. It was very clever having Dan Lambert remove the top rope so that Hangman couldn't hit his finish. And then he had to find a different way to hit the buckshot to win the match. So the referee at the end, he's bent over, trying to pick up some barbed wire on the ground, and Hangman uses him as a vault to vault himself over into the buckshot lariat, off the apron, down through a table. I thought that finish was very well done. What I've seen of him in these matches on TV against Danielson and now against Archer has been excellent. And now he's going to be challenging Adam Cole, it looks like. Something that I've been pitching and talking about now for weeks. That Adam Cole should be the one to get Hangman in the main event at Revolution. So all that talk about him being buried and him being written off after the loss to Orange Cassidy, I just sit here and laugh at those people who looked at that as some kind of burial. The guy's going to go in there in a few weeks and have this fucking kick-ass match, whether he wins or loses. wrestling for the championship. They're going to have, people are going to be standing up, giving these guys a standing ovation. I have no doubt they're going to go in there and have a fantastic match. And very few people are going to remember the fucking falling off the tunnel through a cardboard stage against Orange Cassidy. Now, one last note on AEW here. And this concerns Kyle O'Reilly, who has been taking some time off after the birth of his daughter. He should be back on TV shortly. I've mentioned the name Steve Mello on the show before. He has become a good friend. He handles all the graphics work that you see on my YouTube channel. He just does an amazing job. And one of his children, his son Tayden, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes late last year. Which is a scary diagnosis. I mean, any kind of diabetes diagnosis, let alone for a child, is very scary. And Steve mentioned that to his son, the fact that Kyle O'Reilly, who they were sitting around one day watching on TV, he mentioned the fact that Kyle also has type 1 diabetes. He's been very public about that. And Steve said that his son thought that was really cool. Because he was having a bad day, and so he mentioned that. He said, well, Kyle also has what you have, and he just thought that was, not that he was happy Kyle also has diabetes, but you know what I mean. He thought it was really cool that this guy he's watching on TV is out there kicking ass and doing his thing, and he has the same thing that he has. So anyway, a little while later, Steve ends up emailing Kyle to tell him that story, and to congratulate him on the birth of his daughter. Fast forward a few weeks, and Kyle responded back to him to thank him for the message, and he asked for his address so that he could send Tayden an autograph. Well, on Friday, the autograph arrived with a card and a very nice message inside for Tayden. And, we hear about stories from a lot of wrestlers that go out of their way to do nice things for kids, whether it's, WWE or AEW or another promotion. They don't always get the attention they deserve. And they don't really do it for the attention. But I asked him if I could just share that story here so I could tell you all that Kyle O'Reilly is a class act. It was very nice of him to do that.